people used to call me constantly Busy Man.
Busy man?
Yeah.
Well, you're also a science guy, and obviously you've been interested in science your whole life. So tell us about Bill Nye the Science Boy, how you grew up.
I tell the story often enough, but I remember very well watching bees, bumblebees. And in Ripley's Believe It or Not, in the Sunday paper it said, according to aerodynamic theory, bees cannot fly, are aerodynamic misfits, and should be unable to fly.
But they can fly.
Yeah, there was an issue. And so even as a young man, I realized that not everything grown-ups tell you is true.
Okay? Sorry, kids. Don't. Your parents are, of course, the exception.
But
so there you are. Look at you. You're studying science.
That's ninth grade, and that's where I could tell you in that picture, at that time, in that picture, that bumblebees are what? Hymenoptera bombidae.
Yes, of course. I was just saying that
Class
earlier.
Insecta.
I was not saying that. I don't know.
Order Hymenoptera, the four-winged flies, and then bombidae are the bees.
So you were interested in this stuff from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't remember when I wasn't. I really...
So what made you decide that you really wanted to kind of share this with other people? This wasn't just something that you wanted to study, but let's explain this stuff and get out there.
Well, if I may drop a name.
Okay.
My old professor, Carl Sagan.
Yes, not a bad professor to have.
But I was just one guy in the back of the room. But he said quite often, when you're in love, you want to tell the world.
Exactly.
So I got excited about getting people excited about science.
Carl Sagan said something I'll never forget, made me laugh about science and get a little more interested. Johnny Carson asked him how big space was. And he said, it's really big, that's why they call it space. And
that's right, that's right.
And you could bring this to the masses.
There is a lot of space in space.
There's a lot of space out there, so it is aptly named. You've been at the White House lately, at the Maker Faire, first of all, for inventors. What was that like?
Oh, it was great. So they have people now, there's a whole culture of people that make stuff. And we're celebrating that. And it was started mostly by a guy in the Bay Area, San Francisco.
Yep.
And it's become national. The president, I don't know what you think about him, the president, as near as I can tell, genuinely believes that the United States needs to have manufacturing jobs developed here in the U.S. And so he supports the Science Fair and the Maker Faire. Now, I, myself, personally speaking about me, I strongly believe that the science is what keeps the United States in the game economically, because science is what leads to innovations. And innovation is what the U.S. does. You can't go to many cultures and have people inventing, for example, iPhones.
And we have a culture and an economic system that allows us to do that. So that has kind of led you to get involved in some things that you might otherwise have avoided because they are so political. And you've jumped in with both feet. And I thank you for that, because I think we don't have enough vigorous debate around these things. And you oddly think we should depend on science and fact, which is something I
as opposed to just
whatever you happen to believe.
Just whatever strikes you as important.
So did you have any fears or doubts about, do I really want to jump into these various debates about climate science or creationism?
The thing about climate, which is separate from creationism for me, climate change has been proven overwhelmingly. There's just some industry interests that have promoted the idea that scientific uncertainty, plus or minus such and such percent, is the same as doubt about the whole thing, which is exactly the same tactic that the cigarette industry used for many years. Since you can't show exactly how much cancer is exactly caused by exactly how much smoke, then the whole thing's in doubt. And so climate change is, I'll tell you, what we need to do now, what I think about quite a bit, is how to embrace people that have been, if I can use the term, on the other side all these years. Because we're going to need everybody's help to address this. So climate change, to me, is a real challenge that way. But it's also, once the tide is turned, everybody's going to get on board. That's what it was like isolationism in World War II.
But creationism is a whole different kind of
creationism is just odd. This is to say, we have a unique situation in the United States as the most technologically advanced society in the world. I mean, you can make an argument for Japan. New Zealand is very technologically savvy, okay? But then we have this pocket of people who donate millions of dollars to this extraordinary claim that's just, the word that the judge in Dover, Pennsylvania used was inane. I don't know if you all know that word. It means silly. It's so silly.
It's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, it's a nice way of saying it. It's so extraordinarily silly that it's hard to believe these people exist and spend millions of dollars. And it wouldn't matter, Margaret. It wouldn't matter at all except we could have the possibility of raising a generation of young people who are scientifically illiterate. And that is very bad for the U.S., and I claim an extraordinary big picture U.S. kind of patriot thinking that that's bad for the world.
I understand where you're coming from with that. I have a counter question about that in a second, but I want to show some video of you in this debate with Ken Ham. And you guys just go at it. What was that like?
Well, as an actor.
As an actor, as a performer.
Well, I had to not lose it. Sir, you have said the most extraordinarily silly things. There's trees older than you think the earth is, so stop it. But he's there, pressing on, so I took a lot of discipline.
Now, this wouldn't matter as much if there weren't senators such as former Senator Paul Brown and others who have
What an extraordinary guy.
These things. He is an extraordinary guy, isn't he, in all kinds of ways?
He's a medical doctor, everybody, who says that everything he learned in medical school is not true.
And came from the bowels of hell or something like that.
But he was preaching or speaking to people who had the potential to give him money for his campaign. So I understand that you, especially when you think you're in private, you say extraordinary things.
But that tape got out.
That
Why
was
is
really
it the bowels of hell, by the way? Why not the spleen or some
Well,
other place?
I'm not an
It's a
expert
science
on that.
question. I don't know.
There's a lot of evidence for me that, well, we can't.
But these
No,
things
we'll set
matter
that
so much
aside.
because we are setting policy, and those things that, I mean, it's hard enough when you have different belief systems or value systems or political philosophies, but if you can't agree on evidence-based facts, or if you don't even want to look at the evidence, then we're really...
Well, so the debate in
ourselves in a very
Kentucky
difficult
really came
situation.
down. Somebody from the audience asked a fantastic question. What would it take, Mr. Ham, the person wrote, to change your mind? What would it take to change your mind? And I said, before he did, I mean, it was my turn first. I said anything. You've got fossils in the Grand Canyon where somebody's trying to swim from one layer to the other because he or she this animal is drowning. Or if you can show that somehow starlight can get here faster than the speed of light.
Are you recording
Because
that?
many stars are far older than he claims the world is.
for Drew.
If you could show that a wooden ship could be made by non-shipwrights, that could anything, let alone the speciation, the number of species in the world. If you had some mechanism for producing at least 16 million species, then okay. He said nothing would change his mind. Absolutely nothing. Can you imagine this person on a jury? You're on trial, and this person or his followers have made up their minds already, and there's nothing you can say to them.
But
Is that what we
ultimately,
want? Heavens.
I don't,
If I
I'll
may.
speak just for myself, but I don't know that you can reason with somebody who's
Well,
come to their opinion through something other than reason.
so let me say, my audience was not, in my view, was not Mr. Ham. My audience was everybody who was watching online. There've been
Whose answer might not have been nothing.
Yeah, right.
Might have said,
Right.
yeah,
Who
listen.
might have been interested. I cannot get over the number of people who watched that debate. Total strangers come up to me in the
This was
airport, the
huge.
train station, whatever. Yeah, and millions, literally millions of people have watched it.
As soon as I saw it, I sent it to my friends, and I
I
got
love
it
you,
back
man.
from
I love you. No, because we're trying to spread, as we say, science. As I like to say, science is the best idea humans have ever had, and so we should. And if it's not, we'll throw it out, and whatever we replace it with, we'll say, well, that was the process of science. Isn't that great?
See, either way, you win.
Well, no, it's just if you accept it as a good idea, you make an observation, you have a hypothesis, you test it, you compare what happened with what you thought would happen, and then you do the next thing. If you think that's a good idea, like if you like medicine or cell phones or
I
food,
do. I would not have made a good pioneer woman, so I'm all over
Oh, you'd be
medicine and
surprised.
science. I
People
don't
are
know.
tough. Yeah, yeah.
I don't think
You'd be
I would have.
surprised.
For those of you who are interested in watching that entire debate between Bill and Ken, and I highly recommend it, we've linked it to our website. And you can catch Bill Nye live at Bumbershoot, where he's guest hosting 2 Star Talk Live shows, Saturday, August 30th and Sunday, August 31st. Both shows begin at 2:30 in the afternoon. A fine time, if you ask me, at the Bagley Wright Theater. And please don't go away. Bill's staying to talk about his early days on Almost Live here at King and his experience on Dancing with the Stars. And then he's going to tackle questions from budding scientists in our audience and at home. Back in a moment.